quorum is, but
A quorum is enough people to be able to have a meeting.
a quorum is we can have a conversation instead of a monologue. So, okay, so call the meeting to order. I know that Jen is not able to be with us today because she's on vacation, but she has promised faithfully that she will take the minutes from the recording of this. So we're gonna sit right over the
Clearly.
speak very clearly so that she
You want to
can.
introduce Eric too? I'm not sure
Oh,
everyone knows
Does
Eric
everyone
Peterson.
know Eric Peterson?
I don't think I've met most of you,
Oh,
so it's okay. That's
Oh.
fine.
You're such a fixture. Everybody, so this is Eric Peterson, who
Thank you.
has been roped into being our technical guru for the day, among many other hats that he wears. I believe you're the assistant.
The Assistant City Manager, Director of Finance and Administration. Longest title in
Jack of all
government.
trades.
Yeah.
Like many hats. Would it be useful to you if we introduced ourselves?
You feel free if you wish.
Introduce yourself. This is Marilyn
Oh.
Bradley.
Let me do it.
I didn't
Ladies
know
and gentlemen,
where
we
you were
need
gonna
no
say.
introduction.
Marilyn Bradley. There.
Patrick Murphy.
Katie does, and you know me.
Alex Olmsted.
I'm Laura.
Yes.
Not none of that.
Judy Mann. Very nice to meet you.
And I don't know, starting in the corner here, we have Jan Shapiro, who's waving, and then Beth Corelli, who's just unveiled in the corner there. And I see that Walter and Margot have joined us. Glad to have you guys
Hi.
here. So I guess the first thing would be just really quickly to note, has everybody had a chance to take a look at the minutes from our last meeting? Jen had sent these out. Does anyone have any comments, corrections? If not, I will accept a motion to approve them.
Motion.
All right, Patrick's gonna move. Has everybody had a chance to actually look at them? I don't want to just. I'm not that.
Oh, that. I love it.
Are we okay? All right, so all those in, or actually, I guess I get a second.
Yeah.
All those in favor, aye.
Yeah.
Any opposed? All right, excellent. Well, moving on then to our first item on our agenda, which is the wrap up on the Burr Oak routes. And again, Margot and Walter, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And Walter, by the way, thank you for performing while ill. On top of everything else.
Yeah, well, actually, okay, saying my pleasure, I guess, but I didn't know I was ill at the time. I would never have gotten up there knowing that I had the COVID. I just thought I was starting to go down from just being out in the heat all day long.
Well,
And
yeah.
the very next day I went down really, really hard and then took a test but it came on real quick for me. And I just, I remember the last couple of songs I was starting to lose my voice and it's like, what is going on? I told Margot, I said, I'm not in good shape here. But anyway, it was a wonderful evening and we got it done. So,
Yeah. It was amazing. Absolutely.
yeah, thank you. We're really, I'm really pleased and actually surprised that in really a month's time, I know you guys were talking about it and approved it and all of that months ahead, but Margot and I really just started rolling up our sleeves a month out. And we were able to put that together with all the technical and logistical things that we had to do on our end for just a month, and and trying to get the word out. And again, we acknowledge that you guys, it helped as well, but hard pounding of the streets and everything, and we just did within a month. And so I can't imagine what we can do if we get on it in January or February next year. So which is the way we did the first one. We just, for different reasons, we weren't able to do it this year, but it does seem like the community wants it, and they help to get the word around amongst themselves. So that's encouraging.
Well, certainly your whole neighborhood turned out to help set it up. I kept meeting your neighbors doing
Yeah.
various
Yeah,
tasks.
it's a great way to get to know people, and that was our design from the get-go. It's just, we just thought about what we can bring to the table. How can we do that? I mean, a lot of people throw parties, you know, in the old days, there were Tupperware parties or something, and we throw a concert, you know,
Yeah.
but,
But we do have a really strong community here, so it's really nice.
yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
anyway, thank you for having us here, and thank you for helping us, you know, with the Baroque this year.
Yeah, yeah, well, so I guess, sort of, do we want to be as formal as organizing some ideas about what really worked well, and then some thoughts about what maybe didn't work as well, and what we would need to change, assuming hopefully that we're looking at doing it next year?
Yeah, yeah, I'd like to critique it a little bit.
Sure.
We can deal with that. Somebody fire away, or, you know, questions, or we can start, whatever, you know. How do y'all want to do it?
Gee, if it works, don't fix it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything that could be
I know, but-
improved.
I was gonna say, most of my comments come in the plus column because,
Yeah, well, thanks.
Oh,
I mean, I know one of the first things that comes to mind, in addition to well, the elephant in the room kind of is just the funding of it, but beyond that, just the taco truck or the food truck, we want them to prosper and make, you know, we want them to have it be worth it for them to come out, whoever the food merchants are. And so I probably should have fashioned a little intermission for them, just a short break, or maybe a break between the acts, so that people could get up and buy a taco or whatever. The other thing is, we thought of including Robust or somebody to sell wine and that kind of thing. We thought of that a little bit too late. You know, apparently there's state permits that are involved in that kind of thing, and we just got to get on that a little bit earlier next year, because I think getting and you guys were trying to make it happen on your end, and I appreciate that. It's just there were some legalities that some legal hurdles we weren't able to overcome at the last minute. So Stanley at Robust was interested. He just didn't have enough time to pull it off. So but I think Robust, being a local Webster merchant, would be a perfect you know, a perfect feature there.
so actually, that's actually a very good question that I think we need to talk about for a lot of our events, and we've got folks sitting here who might know and answer, like, what would we have had to do? I mean, if, for instance, Robust has a liquor license to sell at an establishment, but they do not have a license to sell, can they pull a picnic license?
Well, it's technically a temporary license, so someone's liquor license is tied to their establishment. They don't even have a right to a sidewalk without extending their premises out to the sidewalk. It is literally, so think of CJ Muggs. Their liquor license is for inside the building that is CJ Muggs. So, and that's under state law. So the states delegate to the municipalities a certain number of liquor licenses that can be sold. We're in no risk of running out here. But for Webster then as well, if you're going to be Robust, who has a license to go out to another premises, you need that temporary liquor license. So some folks other nonprofits have thought about pulling a standard liquor license, and that takes a whole long list of state compliance things to go through, and there's background checks and such like that. And in reality, for a nonprofit that's doing it a couple times, pulling the temporary is a lot easier. But there is a process, and it has to go to council. I
Yeah,
mean,
we
the
go
council hardly ever disapproves, if ever.
Oh, it's usually in the consent agenda and just goes on, flies on through.
Is there any way at all that the city somehow institutionally could have a year-round permanent liquor license, the city, that then any nonprofit or organization that worked with the city could tie into that, and we can eliminate all of this paperwork?
Well, the city of Chesterfield does do that. The city of Webster has intentionally said we will not hold the liability. The person who holds the license is liable for the over-serving, is liable for all the problems that is created. And just quite simply, we have said, you know, certainly that could be said otherwise, but in the past and leading up to this moment, the council has said we are not going to bear that risk.
Is the problem primarily like the complications of litigation or the expense of having additional insurance?
Both. we don't carry any liquor license insurance until someone rents our park. And if we're, like when we have the boards and commissions party and we provide a drink for all of you for coming to serve, then we, insure ourselves for those times. Luckily, we don't need that license because it's, it's our event. But also to hold the license doesn't matter which nonprofit uses it. The city ultimately is responsible for the service that is done under that liquor license. So best
So-
intentions oftentimes
Yeah.
are big problems.
So I guess coming back to Walter's question, then if we're gonna have this again next July and we want robust to be able, if Stanley's interested, does Stanley pull the license?
Yes, so,
Okay.
and oftentimes as we all talk about the special activity permit and such, certainly that's a separate permit from the SAP, but if you're looking at this, we can just get together and if you're looking at July, if we're together in March and April, that's plenty of time. The temporary license is not going to take long. That can be pulled in June and make it through. I think we just ended up just a little bit too short to get it done this time.
Yeah,
But Katie moves them fast through the clerk's office. That's centered in the clerk's office. It's a duty by state law with the clerk.
I'd also advocate, there's a lot of great vendors and restaurants here in Webster. I don't know who was at this particular event, but there's also the farm truck, which is based in Webster Groves. They catered blues and all these other types of venues. So they're right here. So they're a food truck venue, which could, has these types of permits already built in. Probably unlike Robust, which is maybe a caterer or something. Or a caterer that has a restaurant kind of facility. And then there's also, the VCF folks live here too. So it's just something.
I didn't know that.
That's something worth noting. Yeah. So it's something that we should think about and tap into one day.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the what folks, the VC.
It's a restaurant.
The Galenas, the
VCF.
Galenas family, it's VCA, and they're gonna be opening up in
And
Clayton.
Winslow's table, right?
Yeah, and they're at Winslow's table too, yeah.
Yeah, that's VICIA when you Google it.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
They're down at.
It's
Cortex.
wonderful. They're
Yeah.
a wonderful, wonderful restaurant.
I think any contact that you have directly obviously makes the most sense, but
Yeah.
we should definitely be taking advantage of, these incredible, I think Balkan Tree Box probably even has.
Oh,
I think we have,
Yeah.
I think I know of at least 4 or 5 food trucks.
Yeah.
So there are very few food truck licenses in the city, just generally because folks are operating a brick and mortar here, but a few of them do bring a food truck.
I don't think we should push so much on the food and drink though, because everybody's going there for music. We don't want to oversell this other advantage of just eating there. Because in the past, if anybody wanted anything, they brought their own. And it was more like just a neighborhood party, instead of a really big event. Now, depends on whether or not we want to make this a big event.
Sounds like it already is.
I know.
In terms of,
Yes.
in terms of, I agree, like the neighborhood feel versus kind of like this
Right,
extravaganza. It sounds like it's hundreds.
yeah, because it's expanded over the whole park.
Because if you sell your own beer and wine, you have the potential to make a lot more money, like
We know we can have.
the art. food
That
there.
is true, but then you've gotta like.
But then you gotta go through all the-
separate
Well,
stuff.
negotiate with the vendor to give you a percentage of the proceeds or
So
10%.
yeah, it's gonna be a lot less, but it might really be worth it to not have all that house.
Yeah, I think I could speak for Margot on this. It's like right now, until the name or the brand or the festival or whatever we call this is a little bit more solid. I would caution against getting too many food vendors involved, and I would even caution against. I think we should just try to create a situation, keep the food vendor numbers small so that they can make enough money rather than sharing in the profits. There's no profits right now. So there's, or us sharing in the profits. There's not enough money in it. The last thing we want to do is be pulling from the food vendors. They're not making enough money right now. So let's create a situation where everybody's happy, financially or whatever. And then we can look at that down the road. But my guess would be that would be 3 or 4 years down the road of like saying, hey, we want to cut your food vendor stuff, but I do agree that we need to keep the quantity of food vendors low. I don't think it should be,
It's not a food truck festival.
yeah, and it probably
Right.
just 1 or 2 would be the most. And that's the other thing. I didn't get it on the poster in time that there was going to be food or drink available. And so if that's on the poster and on all the advertisements, then people will come prepared accordingly,
Right. Although
yeah.
somehow the word got out, because when we were doing the traffic barrier, we had at least 2 groups of people who showed up specifically looking for
Yeah.
the Mission Taco truck.
Yeah,
So-
great.
Somehow word was out.
Yeah, I mean, it was a last minute push, but once again, that's a credit to Webster in that there was a really quick and efficient buzz in the community. People got the word around about whatever last minute changes we had, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah, we put it on social media and all of that too, so,
Yeah.
and the website, so people. Yeah, I got a lot less calls this year, but maybe that was because there was no rain to worry about. But last
Yes.
year, that was mostly what I got calls about, was
Calls on the day of, you mean?
like leading up, like, are you doing this or not?
Yeah.
Right,
So-
right. Yeah,
So
no, we
in-
did ask for nicer weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. So, I mean, for us from the technical end of it, the only other thing that really is a real puzzler for us, and I'm just so concerned that at some point our stage company is just going to bail on the whole thing, because it's just, I'm going to use musician logo here. I mean, musician lingo, and the process of, putting equipment into a place is called the load in. And that the Bur Oak is the load in from hell, and it's the load out from hell. And I just, the only thing I can say to that, and we really are, I'm totally aware of not damaging the area, but if those guys could, they haven't even asked me. I'm just trying to preempt something. I'm preempting them bailing on us, for future years. If those guys could bring a truck in through the and not come in through Poplar Street because the hill is too steep, but kind of come in from the baseball park end of it to where it's very gradual, and they wouldn't need to, they would never peel out their tires, and it wouldn't, it's just the same way that the parks department does. They bring trucks in there and they kind of keep it on that one level down by the creek. I mean, it's just a thought. It's just, it takes the staging company is out of there about 2 a.m. Yeah, so and they have to get there very, very early. But on the other hand, we're trying to offset this against protection of the park. And so these are just things to think about. That was one of the only other, negative logistics for us. But,
I assume that Scott would be the one to talk to.
Would you ask for that with the permit?
Yeah, we would. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that's, park rentals obviously are run through the Parks Department, but if
Sure.
we can, if we need to accommodate a load in, we can figure out a way to do that. Obviously, we don't want peel outs and, moisture defects, all that, but we can figure that out. So.
yeah.
Yeah, and I do have to say the Parks Department were amazing. Like Yvonne was helping me to the last minute. So I want to say they're really, really lovely people.
Will
Yeah,
somebody
and-
just remind whoever's filling out the paperwork, because I
Okay.
think on the application for the permit, if there's a box that needs to be checked, we'll just have to remember to check it.
Yeah.
And
And I understand how this stuff works. You know, you give one entity an inch and everybody takes a mile. I'm just talking about the staging company. I'm not talking about the musicians. I'm not talking about the lighting company. I'm just talking about the guys that do that real heavy lifting. And so
It sounds like ultimately when we get to permit next year, that there's enough logistics that would just, no different than we do with the arts fair, before when they pull their permit, and we just get together and talk about, what's the layout look like, so that we all, and oftentimes what we'll do is bring fire and police there so we can think about all the things that you folks wouldn't have to think about, right? Like,
yeah,
we get an ambulance in, how do we accommodate a mass evacuation if needed, and those kinds of things, we just half hour, and it's just a good meeting to get everyone without having to try to decipher from paper. Here's what the event looks like and how it's gonna run.
okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, we're just waiting till next year.
I just wanna know what next year's concert is gonna be.
Yeah,
Where are you going next?
I mean, one of the thoughts is kind of possibly world music. World music means anything from, I don't know, musicians from Nigeria to musicians from Brazil, or, and local musicians who are maybe comprised of people who come from other countries and they play music, and then we mix that with a little folk or something. I mean, that's just an idea. We don't know. I mean, I'd also love to do.
It's too early to.
Yeah.
I mean, he's coming up with something on the spot.
We could also go back to Baroque,
Baroque.
Baroque music, and just kind of switch it back and forth every year. And like this year it's Baroque. So, and now next year it's Baroque roots again. So I know, but there is an element of surprise. It's like, what's it going to be this year, and that will keep people engaged and keep people wanting to pay attention. So if Bur Oak and there's something tied to the tree theme, it might be kind of fun to change it up and get kids involved and that sort of thing, like I tried to do this year. So
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for your time. I know
you got other matters.
Well, thank you, both of you,
Yeah, thank you.
for organizing this and for all of your hard work and energy that went into this, because it was a huge success, and we just really, really appreciate all that you guys do.
Yeah, I was really, really pleased. I mean, we kind of had a feeling it wasn't going to be the bigger numbers like it was the first year because of the COVID and everybody had other things to do. But there were a good many people out there, and it's a wonderful space. It's one of our gauges is the week before people start driving down Poplar Street to check out where it is. They want to know where this thing is, and they'll talk to us if I'm out working in the lawn, and they're like, this is a wonderful spot for a concert. We can't believe, that this isn't happening on a regular basis. So I really think we're on to something here. We just personally have to figure a way to, I have to completely preface it. We're not looking to make money on it, but we just want to try to figure a way to find some big donors around in the town so that we don't have to, put 10 grand out of pocket, that kind of thing. So, I mean,
It's always the trick, isn't
It's
it?
always the trick,
Yeah.
Sponsorship.
I mean, that's the elephant in the room, and it's we just gotta keep your ears and eyes open for if anybody's a supporter of the arts, hey, it could be something we do in the future. So
Awesome. Well, thank you both.
Thanks.
pleasure.
Thank you. And I actually have to run to my job, so I'm gonna have
Oh. Good to see you.
Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye. Okay. So, moving on from there to the Lifetime Achievement in the Arts event. Jen was able to organize the room for us at the Rec Complex on October the 28th. And have we confirmed with
Yeah.
The guys that's gonna.
Yeah, I've been thinking, wow, October 28th, that's a long way away, isn't it? Then I saw it on the agenda here and I thought, oh, it's August. So I'm starting to kind of kick in gear here a little bit. I've already talked to the boys and they know that they've got to, I just have to like crank it up to the next level and go, no, we really do need addresses for invitations. I'm going to, they already know that I want to take a buddy photo of them some morning on Gore, you know, and we'll get that. So we'll get the basic information from them. They know that they need like 3 people to say nice things about the 2 of them. They're not sure that they're gonna be able to do that, but you know. I have no doubt that they
At
can.
least I need 3 people that will say nice things about one of them.
Yeah, and later it made perfect sense. Yeah, I mean, like people who could talk about both of them, a total of 3 people. So, and then we can talk about, you know, publicity and food and all that kind of stuff, you know, much later. But yeah, I'm suddenly on it.
Yeah, well, we'll need the speakers and I guess we'll also need to think about an invitation. Did we?
Well, that's one of the reasons the photo, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Right, wasn't
Did
it?
we decide to just, do we have a standard form somewhere for the invite? Do we have a?
Then I seem to recall there's somebody with the city.
Jen did. them.
Yeah, Jen did
I think.
that when we would give her the information and then it just magically
Right.
happened. So if it's gonna be anything less than magically happening, we should probably.
I know.
No.
Between Jen Conrad and Jen Starkey, we'll find it.
That bit of miracle occurred.
Yeah, that's comforting, it's nice. Yeah, so great. I mean, you know, we actually really do have time and we all know what to do here and it's not.
You know, they both are really tied to Webster history.
Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
We should push that, because at one time Joe had the Acme.
yeah.
Press, and then
We should
Dan
do
did a
that.
whole bunch of research on just that one area on the history of Old Webster.
Well, Dan had Webster Records. a lot of
Well, I
people-
know, but I mean, because I helped him. We went from one lot to the next on who were the original owners to
Interesting.
up to, I guess, when we put it with the national or
Yeah, it was
whatever the
part of the
register.
register of historic places.
Yeah,
National
so
Register,
he
yeah.
was on that committee.
Right before COVID, Dan bought a building over on Moody across from the bank and I was over there and they were renovating it. And it used to be a livery stable and they found a
Yeah.
horseshoe.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. These guys are like
Yeah.
solidly ingrained in the DNA of
Yeah.
Webster. Yeah, we'll have fun. This will be a good event.
I guess we should be targeting invitations to go out by October the 1st, is that?
It's the date that came in. Mind.
Yeah, the kind of month before we, and then, and we also usually ask for a list of people they would like to receive.
Oh, yeah, no, we're on,
Yeah.
they're already in the process, but they should be preparing that.
Okay.
But wow, I mean, just the 2 of them, I mean, we're not gonna have any trouble at all getting folks. And it's kind of unique to honoring 2 people.
I mean, we thought about it with Peter Sargent, I think. Did we do something light? Just to do something outside to kind of, you know, announce that we're having this, I don't know, here or at the rec center as you arrive, kind of this sort of
This-
celebratory.
No, that's, you mean like a signage or something? you mean?
Yeah, signage banner.
In advance, yeah. Like
Or
significant.
day, well, I was thinking day up, but yeah, maybe.
I mean, if we could have something like a week
Yeah,
up or
right,
something,
that's right.
I mean, like, then you've got all the people who go to the rest.
Put things up at the rec center a week in advance though, I mean, that's.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that interferes with that.
It's just a civic activity permit. You're a city group, you can do that. So it'd be no different than we give those little spaces on the medians for people to put signs in. Mara's department runs it. It's very simple. You just have to make the sign. So
We can also make a couple of announcements at the Jazz Fest on the stage.
I'm thinking the Jazz Fest is where we really need to lay this up, because that'll be the people who are.
We can do a big yoo-ha, you know, and introduce them and they can take a bow, and, you know, do a little teaser.
Well, maybe John Akron. Banner, something.
Put it on his list of signs
I
that he's
know,
making for
I
arts
know.
organizations.
I know.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, well, we're in pretty good shape and we'll have more to report next month.
All right, excellent. Anything
I
else?
can just put in a word, I have written to Jane Smiley. But it's a summer and, you know, so I'm gonna write her again, at the week after Labor Day. Okay, so presuming she's, trapped.
So thinking 23.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I told her. That we were gonna
Good, good.
Okay.
Okay. So then moving along to some of the miscellaneous updates that we have here. The first one, I guess, is the Public Art Fund, which apparently we have not received any donations in.
That is correct. I'll pull it up here for you so y'all can see it actually, and I'll share my screen if everyone wants. The mysterious Public Art Fund. Grab it here. Sure.
Mythical.
So let me
Not
get-
quite that.
Familiar with the system.
Oh, yeah.
And Mural.
Mural, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're gonna really have to beat the drum some on this.
Well, clearly we have to
So.
let people know it exists.
That would be a good first. step.
So-
You know,
Wait a minute,
we
number
use
one.
So
Remember
this,
using the pig? I remember the pig. We actually made like, I don't know, $17 with the pig, didn't we?
so our fiscal year starts in July 1. So this is 2023. Your balance is right here. Why is it negative? Because it's a liability account. It's like when you have a savings account at a bank. For the institution, the bank, it's a liability because they owe you that money when you want it. We owe this money to the arts and whatever its intended purpose was when it's needed. So the bigger the negative number, the more money in the public art fund.
Oh, okay.
So you have $1,392, and I'll just flip back one fiscal year back. And you've had $1,392 all the way till at least last July. We can keep going back over time. Your 5-year trend, just very simple, you can see in 2018, this is Barbary Park likely, which I think was a big use of this fund.
Yeah.
So there's Barbary Park. And then you had some over expenditure, but with in savings that came in, over savings, excuse me, that came in 19, and that's really where it's held in. So that is your 5-year trend, and you've got $1,392. I'll be quite honest with you, we have no record of what that $1,392 is meant to be used for. So if some donor said this is going to a sculpture,
Oh.
we don't know.
Right.
So I think the mayor's relayed this, but the city's in that bind that many charitable organizations get in if they're not clear with the records on, we've got this money, what was it given for? So
None of this is money that has been appropriated to us by the city council. This is all.
this is all
Yeah.
off of budget. It's called a liability account. It's not, and it's generally, from my understanding, we've operated, there's a purpose. We collect money for it, like Barbary Park, and then we use that money for that purpose. Well, I'm assuming since that's probably our last big solicitation, a good chunk of those funds came in for that and were not used in that moment. But that's me assuming, right? That is not, I gave money to you for this purpose, right? And so the city has not expended any of this. It doesn't take council to expend it, although we would probably ask, given the nature of it. But if there was a clear, I gave $500 for Barbary Park and we had an expense, we would authorize that.
Is this invested also so there's some interest while it sits?
So all of the things that come into the art funds are pooled in what's called the general fund. So this is all in the general fund. So there is interest income. That the city has a policy, always resorts back to the city's revenue stream. So the art fund is not bearing any interest. It's just there. It's meant to be an account in and out.
It is not a separate nonprofit
No.
501c3.
It
It
is
is tax deductible through the government, which is kind of.
If it's for a
Yeah.
public purpose, right? And that's back to the conversation we had about the concert, right? And
So if, let's say let's do a hypothetical. If somebody writes $1,000 check to that, who is giving the tax deductible donation to that particular donor or some type of credit? Or is it upon the particular donor to, consult their tax advisor to receive the charitable?
it's really on their donor, right? And I mean, and for what purpose? So again, the Barbary Park sculpture, certainly public art owned by the city, it's a public purpose. Let's say we had donations going in here to go to the Webster Arts Fair. I know that wouldn't happen, but let's just use that common terminology in that example. That's not our bet, the city, right? Is that considered a public purpose? That's not our determination to make. It's ultimately the IRS's. But again, as a receiving entity, like a charitable entity in this way, what advice do we give in that regard? And so, that's a real confounding spot for us to be in, right? I mean, is it a public event? It's a nonprofit, but, Bur Oak, whose is that? Is that the Arts Commission's or is it the Parks' event, right? Who owns Jazz Fest? Lots of those questions.
In fact, I anticipate some meetings coming up where we're gonna be talking about Jazz Fest, the Art Commission, Webster Arts. We've had a number of meetings with the Jazz Fest people earlier and because Dan and we, everything, I know more, but getting these organizations like perhaps Webster Arts, maybe to some degree the Arts Commission, the city, the business. I mean, my little head just explodes sometimes when I hear about all these complications. And I think there's a way to do it probably, but I'm not sure what it is. So you'd be up for
Eric Peterson's view, again, Eric Peterson speaking, not the city, but there's a benefit to having, if Webster Arts was a 501c3 that could pool donations and act as a charitable entity towards the arts, that would be incredibly helpful, right? I mean, the ultimate issue here is right now, if the city were in financial straits, the city council would come in and say, public art funds, void it out. Money's going to the general fund, right? I mean, it's, we are not a charitable entity. If the push comes to shove, the taxpayers' obligations, any money in our account is our money now, regardless of the reason or intent that it was given. We don't want to do that. I'm not, but it's, I'm
Not
just
advocating.
not advocating, but I'm laying that out. And I think there's a real value if we can get to a real nonprofit group that can manage donations like that, because it's very clear that,
and I
right?
think because you met with Dan and Joe as well, and we talked about us all having some meetings. And I don't want to get us off topic here, but this is going to be a big deal. We're extremely interested and have been talking about it for a long time, informally and now more formally. We are very interested in some way or another taking responsibility with Mike Silverman as well. Being responsible for it, but we want it starts getting murky where we're also a separate organization and we're putting some money in. We would like to have some of the money coming out that we can use for non-jazz things if we're selling.
When you say we, are you talking about Webster Arts? That's okay.
Webster
Just wanted to make
Arts.
sure I was.
Yeah.
And there are too many entities.
No, it's the problem.
Yeah.
So what we would want to do is be able to protect ourselves as an organization, help the Jazz Fest. It's perfectly aligned with our mission as an organization and also the image of the city to be able to have at the beginning of the warm weather, the art fair and in fall, the Jazz Fest. It would be wonderful. We see huge advantages to working with the city as well. You guys can make all kinds of things happen, but somewhere it has to be like written down so that we can see it. Who does what and who gets what.
Yeah.
So why don't we set up a meeting sometime in the weeks ahead, if that would be okay, whoever needs to be there.
I mean, yes, because ultimately, in terms of city sponsorship, that's an issue, right? I mean, we sponsor a lot of events, right? And we have no issue with that. I think there's a distinction that's been made. Many people view our sponsorship as it is our event, right? Like we've sponsored Bur Oak. It is not our event. Want to know what our event is? The July 4th parade. That's our event.
Which is
I mean,
totally lost on the public. But
right,
it's
but
very-
I mean, but you get back to it ultimately when they are our event. So let's just say Jazz Fest is our event. Now you've dealt with the public space and access issue of how did you pick that lineup? And are you censoring anybody's expression in some way? And and I mean, you start making things ours, it's different than when we sponsor something.
And it's
right?
just a matter of clarifying all these
Exactly.
things, I think, and we want to make sure that, that we're getting some money out of it, that our name is associated with it, but I don't think we really care, like, who owns it or whatever.
I have a two-part question. One, I guess, is there any allocation on an annual basis that puts money into that fund? Obviously, I understand that this commission has a budget, if you will, but there's no allocation.
No, the public art fund exists solely to take in the donations and process them out. So the allocation that you all receive is in the boards and commissions budget, which I think we've sent you a copy of, so
So, okay, so second question is, as the city of the arts, has there been any discussion about kind of it being a arts district in which there's some types of taxation that does go into or funnel into it? Has there been any discussions over the years past of that possibility?
Yeah.
Obviously, understanding that there's a deficit of non-income possession.
In my knowledge, there has not been. I'll certainly defer to the council member. I don't know that there is any enabling law for anything outside of St. Louis City for an arts tax, for a district dedicated to the arts. There's certainly business districts and economic development districts, but specific to art and arts.
It's a great idea.
We promote and advocate ourselves as city of the arts, but if you don't have any type of public infrastructure and or tax money or infrastructure kind of funneling into it, then.
One of the things I'd like to do is electrify North Shore so that we don't have to buy generators every time we have to rent generators, which is a huge expense. But we're kind of getting into the weeds here, but
Well,
I'm all for that.
so I guess so circling back around into the public art fund. I'm frankly lost. I guess what I'm hearing is that money that goes into this, the actual public art fund, if it's not physically spent on a physical object, it is not taxable.
I want to be clear, it's for a public purpose, right? And so this is the distinction, right? A sculpture,
Yeah.
even visible, an event run by the city, right? Or that we may say is our event, right? There's certainly a public purpose there. The question becomes when you have an event owned by some other entity, right? The parks being a great example. I don't know that they're a 501c3, right? I don't know that the IRS would ultimately say Burr Oak is a public charitable event. Now, it very well may determine that. But if we're going to give advice as the city, we err to, unless it's very clear that there is a public purpose here, right? That, you know, we're saying it's not tax deductible.
Although I think a lot of people's accountants would say, let's run this through.
Well, they would,
Yeah.
right.
Right, but then that's on the
Yeah,
accountants,
no,
not on us.
right, exactly. I mean, we end up in a load of words there because we become,
No,
you
I-
told me, and then how I'm audited, right?
No, you've got to be careful.
But I guess it's all an interpretation.
Yeah.
But when we, at various points, we did more actively solicit contributions to the public art fund. And the idea was that we were thinking of a way to implement our public sculpture. I mean, that was really the idea. I thought, we developed that brochure. I thought we had said that contributions were taxed.
Well, I think they
We-
are because you're.
We have said
Yeah.
that. I had a long talk with Jennifer about this. We have said that in the acknowledgement letters. But that was because we understood that that was the public purpose. If we're expanding what we use the
Okay.
public art fund for, are we expanding in ways that still fit that
Mhm.
definition of public purpose? And I think Eric's point is, we don't want to be the ones to define on behalf of the IRS what it is.
Because if
Very
we're,
smart,
because we were using it to purchase a piece of art.
Right.
That the city owned.
But can't we designate it to be that?
I mean, I think
For
that's
the
what.
purchase of
The
public
public art
sculpture
fund?
for the city of Webster Groves or something like that.
Oh, certainly, yes. But the problem with the arose in this question was for Burr Oak.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
And
right,
that was where
yes,
we
yes.
made the distinction like.
Yeah,
That's,
this,
I
you
think
know.
that's different. That's
Yeah.
the two sides of
Wasn't it
it.
at one time we had sort of a 5% taxation or 5% for public art for anything in Webster Groves, that money went to that little.
I think it was kind of
So
fantasized
there
that.
was, I do remember when I first ran for council, so that was 5 years ago. Almost 5 years ago, being asked if I supported that very thing. So it's essentially if you build something new, there's something goes to the public art fund. It has never been in my time been considered by council.
Ask for 1%.
Yeah, five is a lot.
I think it was an idea never codified.
Yeah,
Never-
exactly.
never- yeah, never
So
became-
since we have the city of the arts, then we should push that again?
Well, I remember, I don't speak for the council here, so, because I honestly
I'm sure
don't
nobody
know.
wants to spend
Actually,
money.
you know what? It might be worth some of the members of this commission talking to my colleagues on the council to see if they're open to that idea.
I would
before-
definitely be interested in being the part of it,
Yeah.
and again, like maybe less than 1%, anything. I talked to some developer friends of mine and they don't like it, I mean. of course, you know, they don't. I mean, you know, when you talk to them, they're barely breaking even on every project they do. In fact, they lose a bit on every project, they're making up and.
But there's a lot of cities that all, you know,
that
they're all
already
over the
exist.
country.
These models already exist. There's also communication firms that specialize in thinking about these particular taxation issues and
Yeah.
then figuring out if it would actually pass, because you don't want to put anything on the ballot that's not gonna pass.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we're a highly coded place to develop, I mean, I think.
Yeah, but it's all in the wording, the phrasing and.
Yeah, which I don't
In a
agree with.
time of pandemic and
Yeah.
recession and all
This
these
is not
other
the
things.
time.
Yeah, but on a long-term basis is that like, it's all about resources. I mean, everything that we're talking about here costs
Yeah.
money. So if there's no money in the budget to do these programs or projects, it's not-
Well, Laura suggested we get a couple of people together here and talk to some council members and just, I mean, I would think that we would go to them not trying to sell anything, but go to listen.
You know, for future, get it in their mind.
How do we do that? Do you set that up or do we set that up?
You invite
Just
them to
send them a
coffee.
note, call them up, everybody's phone numbers on the website. All our
Do
cell
we
phone
meet in
numbers
a
are.
room or do we go out and get coffee or? how does it-
Usually, I would say coffee's great. If you want to meet in a room here, we can arrange that. We just, have to be careful, not more than 3 council members at a time. We don't want to, and no quorum of this organization either.
How many council members are there?
7, so you
Oh,
can
so-
invite 3 at once. Any conversation.
Okay,
And Alex, can I ask you possibly to be part of that conversation?
Yeah, of
Because you
course.
have more experience at this.
I mean, I'm
than
most
anybody
interested
else.
in this particular thing, that this
Yeah.
has to do with, just building the infrastructure of this body.
well, I mean, I like your idea for really the city of the arts. I mean, like, what are we gonna do about it? And which also touches on something that Laura mentioned, I think at the last meeting. Whereas what we're doing is really exceeding what we're supposed to be doing in the charter. And which I kind of joke, aren't you lucky? You've got a commission here that's like on fire. So maybe we need to go back and see just what that writing is and talk to the council about expanding.
So that's on our, we had a meeting of this boards and commission subcommittee last week. I think it was last week, and that is one of the things that we'll talk about, because this is not the only commission which is exceeding its statutory authority. So we're gonna have to figure out a way to make sure we correct that for this commission and more. So that the wording actually reflects what the mission of the commission.
Well, what a nice place to be.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I would also just give you a heads up. There is another proposal floating around for a percentage tax for an affordable housing trust fund as well. So that would be either a competition or it would be something that maybe you would try and package together. That has also not been fully formalized as a proposal by anyone yet. So both of them, I think you could say are early stages, but just good to know that when you're gonna go talk to council members.
Do we have any approximate figure of just how many dollars worth of development are done on a typical year in Webster? Of course, not. I mean,
Depends
No,
what
I
you mean by
Yeah.
development. We can get the new construction numbers, which when we look
well,
at,
it would be the kind of thing that would be.
Tax. that
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm
contribute to
wondering,
this fund.
I mean, wow, it'd be cool to raise $20,000 a year. I mean, that would be cool. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be just a little thing you just kind of slip in there. It would be better than nothing. And I was wondering if we had an idea. This would just be on new. This wouldn't be you improving your bathroom. This would be
new construction,
building a building somewhere. I
we
don't
can,
know.
we can get that number for you. So,
It'd be interesting just to have an idea of what kind of ballpark we're in.
new construction, you would be surprised how small it is when you think about the whole land size and the assessed value.
Well, but still, for our
Right.
purposes,
Yeah.
it might be quite big. I mean, it might be.
Over what period of time are
Every
we
year.
looking? So
Every year,
it
the
hasn't really drastically.
It hasn't
Yeah.
drastically dropped, it hasn't drastically
Yeah.
risen. I mean, what you've seen is a lot more renovation, right? So the tear downs have become sort of stigmatized in some ways, so you see, okay, we'll keep a wall of this house, which is technically not new construction, it is
Yeah.
simply, renovation, so, yeah.
I bet the creative people at Webster Gross could put something like this to the taxpayers.
Well, I would think though, if there's a initiative for affordable housing. That could kill us.
I'm thinking,
You know.
I wasn't getting close to both.
if we
Well, it
can't
would. I mean, we would
market
have
that
to
together-
think it through very carefully, but I mean, and frankly, you know, I'm thinking we need affordable housing here. I mean, that's a.
Oh, yeah, I don't want to be put in a position. Yeah.
cause, you know, but
Again, it's all about that language, right? So
Yes,
you get the
exactly.
access to the arts, access to, artists that are underrepresented, et cetera, having representation. So all about that language about how the arts function.
We don't want it to be clothed and naked and have a party, No, it's gotta be a lot more. Yeah,
All right.
But
well,
anyway-
Clearly a lot more
first steps,
first steps, a lot more to
first steps.
be done on this.
Wow, big discussion, cool.
So, and I know we're coming to the end of our hour here. Do we have an update on the mural project?
I finally have a scheduled phone call with potential funder tomorrow. They left the country.
Ah,
As-
ah,
as-
and it makes it more difficult to track people down.
So hopefully that'll
Yeah.
move us along.
Well, I think I mentioned this at one time. Pete Wallaker put something on Facebook, and this is what it was, for a free mural. Anyone want a free mural? I have a national client who wants to commission a mural in St. Louis and wants to find a wall with high visibility about 10 by 12 feet. The design will reflect peace, love, positivity, and kindness. I would also need to hire a few other artists to help. So it looks like Pete would do the painting, and you'd want to know what it looks like before you even said yes, before you even found a wall.
It sounds awfully positive.
But it was free.
Is it free for you, or does somebody have to hire the artist?
A national funder maybe it's already
Yeah.
sponsored the cost of it. They just need space.
I think, yeah, probably the cost of materials. I'm not sure about these artists. Usually you have to pay the artist unless somebody wants to just do the wall for fun. And sometimes they're awfully expensive, so you don't, and there's companies that are automatically doing that all over the place. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in that
Yeah.
Well,
he had that one offer.
perhaps we're focusing on our mural in Ivory Crockett for the now, maybe? I mean, is that,
Is that moving on?
well, Laura's busy organizing funding for us, so.
I'm busy organizing a meeting to get
We'll
funding.
be that in a minute. Laura is organizing funding.
Yeah,
Oh, goodness, it's moving ahead.
well,
This is how we end up in taking.
a private entity.
yeah, give us a wall and a bunch of us will paint it.
That's right. Oh, gosh.
No collaborative effort between private and public will go unpunished.
Okay. Okay, so we will, I guess, wait to hear more on
Yeah.
murals then. Piano Fest, people maybe have noticed there's pianos in place now that are going to be painted, so
Yeah.
stay tuned for information about that. John Ahern is organizing signage for us about the pianos and also about the concert. Sounds like our
Permits going through.
permits going through.
So basically what we've got the stage, we've got the musicians, we've got the lineup. We're working with the Masons.
We've got the porta
we-
potties.
huh? We've got porta potties. And the only thing, a couple tangible things we would need would be some trash cans. And we usually get the
traffic
trash
barriers.
bags and access to that parking lot
Before the event.
before the
You're
event.
talking about the parking lot right here?
Yeah, so that the people can, park there and we'll park that.
That's
out there.
technically the Mason's lot. So, yes.
Oh, so it's easy.
Yes. The city ends at the curb. So.
Oh, okay, so we're in great shape and thanks for moving that,
No problem.
moving that through, so. And we'll be working on publicity for that, and that's another one of those wonderful things like Baroque, that in a way, there's an element where the buzz just gets out there and. just kind of.
Where are the pianos, I have to say?
So there's one in front of the Garden Cafe, there's one at the Masonic Lodge, and there's one at DD Now, which is,
Right.
and the artists should be painting them this week. So,
And okay, just one other question. We've had, this is possible in part because of some people who are willing to throw resources into this and are pretty casual about being compensated for it. Do we have any money at all that we could make even a token thank you remuneration to some of the people who have put money into music, stage, things like that? I mean, is it even worth bringing it up?
So you do have funding.
Yeah.
The Arts Commission.
Okay,
Yes, but it's kind of our next topic, which we're probably actually not gonna have a chance to get around to today, is about the signage. And we have already spent, what, 2,000 or 3,000 more than our funding just on
oh,
signage.
that's right, that was about 3,000, 13,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so that answers my question. No, we don't have.
And that does not
Okay.
include the food and drink for the lifetime achievement. which is-
Okay, all I needed was an answer. Thank you.
So basically, we're in the negative value.
Why don't we have a big fund where people put, oh, there we go.
Fabulous idea. Let's
Yeah, it's
do
great.
that.
I just,
Yeah, so, and that, again, next topic then about the signage. Is that in comparing our numbers, we've realized that I forget, it was 2,700, anyway, we are a substantial amount above what we had budgeted. Which means that we're really gonna have to look at that.
Or weren't we considering sort of dividing it up? One
Yes.
fund, but then we would have to request money for it next.
But then we have to figure out how to divide it up too, because I mean, I guess we just do the sculpture part, which is 7. Anyway, so
I mean, that makes sense. doesn't it? I mean, it was the sculpture part that brought the issue forward because you can no longer read them.
right.
That was the priority.
so when in the calendar do we submit it and then get word on the next?
Next year's budget.
Yeah,
So you'll start the budget with your coordinator, Jenny Starkey, in January. So we'll need the budget submitted to the city manager would be by February. They'll submit their budget back March, April to the council with, what the manager is recommending, and the council takes it from there. July 1 is the.
so we're gonna spend our money and we're not gonna have like any money for like a long time. And we're probably not gonna get a whole lot of money next time.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
So you ask for more than you need.
I don't mean to, well, of course, we always have, I mean.
You're saying the quiet part out loud.
That's right. We just need to strike that from the minutes. Okay, and then the naming of the sculpture park, did we?
Yeah, so the idea is, and I have to meet with Jennifer, to draft a letter that we will then submit. So I have not done that yet, but we were gonna do this in the fall, right? You thought that in September would be.
Yeah,
Because there was.
it'll be the question will be getting on the work session agenda, which is becoming increasingly crowded. We have 30 applicants for the charter commission, which means we're gonna have to spend a little extra time interviewing them. So yeah, September would be the absolute earliest. Probably October would be the first time that it could actually go on a work session agenda.
And we don't have a deadline
Yeah.
really.
Really, yeah.
September is only a month away.
I know, but
It's-
yeah,
Time is going.
Isn't this the kind of thing that sails through?
I would think it wouldn't be a hard, but you never know. Some other people may have some thoughts about that very thing. No, we don't.
I would, once you and Jenny write the letter, your next meeting, you can approve the letter, and from there, it's just a matter of schedule.
Yes,
Really,
exactly.
it's really a matter of, with all the things the council has to talk about, when do we find the right
Right.
moment to put it on the agenda, so.
Okay, and then the last topic that Jen wanted us to talk about is that we have 2 open spaces on the Arts Commission, and I believe the filing deadline,
There is no final.
there is no filing deadline, so we currently just have 2 open spaces.
I do believe that you've had, I cannot remember the name she told me, but someone from Webster U
Oh, okay.
did apply.
Nice.
Good.
So
So
that-
it's-
Okay, good, yeah. we
So-
haven't had that.
so I think you have one more, but I.
Well, that's an important connection.
So who are the 2 spots? Lauren
Lauren's
is
not with us anymore, and we are still down from Dawn not
Oh.
nothing.
And I need to reapply,
And
which
you
I have.
and I believe John. I myself would love to get Margot Parks. Margot.
Oh, yeah, like somebody who like does stuff.
Somebody who does stuff. But I'm obviously not.
This is a definitely does stuff commission. I mean, everybody,
Yeah, I guess the only thing is a North Webster person always.
It would be nice if we could.
Yes, yeah.
yeah, I mean, in fact, that's, I would think Webster U and North Webster are two, that's where I put my emphasis. I mean,
Does anybody have a name though? I mean, if we're
Ed
gonna.
Johnson. Except he doesn't do anything.
well, we're looking for,
Webster, doesn't he live in Rock Hill?
He'd be only
He lives
what,
in Rock
a
Hill.
figurehead.
Yeah, I'm not sure it does with.
we're looking for exactly the same two people for Webster Arts Board. So why maybe we work a deal, they serve on both.
Yeah.
Work them to death.
That would be good, because eventually we sort of do things together anyhow.
Merge. No, I'm pretty sure Ed lives in Rock Hill because he was an alderman in Rock Hill for years. So whoever said Ed. Well, anyway, if anybody thinks of anything, just, I guess, either encourage that person to fill out an application or let Jen know, I guess. She can reach out.
Well, if we don't know, do any of us know someone who might
Well,
know?
that's what I was thinking. I could call Catherine DeHart and ask her if she had a suggestion of someone.
Yeah, the fact that we don't know is part of the problem, actually.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's why we want this.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, I believe the application is available on the city website.
It is.
So anybody who wants to put an application, and then the whole works goes to council and not a problem. All right, so I know we're 5 minutes over at this point. Does anybody have anything else that we need to bring up?
Beth, I appreciated the little one visiting there.
Yes.
That's awfully nice at commission meetings.
Thank you. Sorry, we all have COVID in this house, so everyone's here.
Beth.
Oh,
Oh, no. You look like you're holding up well, though.
Well, I hope we're on the tail end. So yeah, but yeah, that's why everybody's wandering. We're all isolating together and driving each other crazy.
Oh, and that's so hard with little ones when they're not happy and you
Yeah,
already weren't
yeah,
happy.
right,
and,
right.
oh, it just adds an extra element.
Could be.
Yeah, very good
Yeah.
meeting.
And so our meeting next month.
Oh.
So
It's 8:30. It's at 8:30.
Right.
And with Labor Day.
We have it down for the 6th.
The 6th, okay.
Which is the Tuesday after Labor Day, although now that you've come to mention that, I may not be there, so. I think you may. He's the assistant, or vice chair, or whatever you are.
I'm pretty good at like the 20-minute meeting.
Pretty good at vice.
Yeah, we got it. Webster Arts meeting, pretty short meetings.
All right, okay, well, thank you all.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all. Okay.